Hello and welcome to a quick tutorial on big reactors. This is being made on the Dragon Tech server, which all the links are in the description for that. Okay, well let's just go on and straight on and build one. What you're going to need is mostly reactor casings, which is what I'm using here. These are pretty easy to make depending on which version of the mod you have. There's a version that uses steel instead of iron, so obviously that's going to be a bit of a pain compared. Okay, so what I like to do is build the sort of the walls out of glass, simply because it makes it look nice. You can use the reactor casings as well, but it just looks so much nicer, especially if you have cryothium in as the coolant, or the redstone, or resonant ender. You can use that as well, but I think it all looks pretty cool, so well worth using. So I'm just building the frame out here. Okay, and now I'm going to position my yellorium fuel rods. Now these are what you need to make it run, basically. So I'm going to need these up to the ceiling. And then what I'm going to need on top of here is some control rods. So we're going to stick those on there. Basically you can click on these. And the lower the percentages, the more that they get used. And the higher means that they're not going to get used as much. So basically it reduces your power and burn up rate by quite a significant amount depending on how much they are. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my reactor glass and stick it around the edges here. Now you are going to need some sort of coolant for this. Now the best one to use, well I'm pretty sure is the best one to use, is liquid cryothium, which can be either made by bees or from the Magic Bees mod, or by a recipe, which you can make the dust, which makes which you can put in a fluid magma crucible, which then puts it into a fluid transposer, which you can then bucket out, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's our basic design. So we're going to need some other things as well. Mostly, the first thing you're going to need is a controller. So this controls it. You can turn it on and off with this. Okay, so it's actually black at the minute because it's not a complete reactor. You're also going to need an import and output. I've only got one of these, so I'm just going to go make another. If it won't lag. Sorry about that. Okay, let's make some more reactor. You get to see the recipe after all. Okay, so we're going to need one of these, one for in and one for out. This is basically, you need two if you want to automate it. If you're not looking to automate it, then it really doesn't matter all that much. Okay, so I'm going to set this one to outlet mode, so you see it's blue, and you can output the cyanide which it makes, which is basically like the waste, and you can recycle that into plutonium, which you can use again instead of yellorium, which is the fuel that this uses. Okay, you're also going to need some power taps, so I'm just going to stick... Sorry, I'm terrible, I press the wrong buttons all the time. So, reactor power tap. So this is your output of the power. Pretty simple, so I'm going to put a line of capacitor banks up here. So that'll be good. Yep, and I think that's pretty much all we need for that. Well, you can also add red net ports, redstone ports, or computer craft ports to help automate it further. So you can turn it off as and when you need to, so that you don't waste any fuel. So, because if it won't turn itself off when it's full, so you have to automate that somehow yourself. Okay, so I'm just going to dig out this bit so I can fill this with cryothium. Now, cryothium is a pain to use, simply because it doesn't act like a normal fluid. It like kind of sinks. I'll show you in a second. I'll just dig this out real quick, and I'll take this up with me. This is my ender tank, which I brought back from my own base. I accidentally made like 500 buckets of it, so I thought I might as well use my own. I might gold Kitsune's base in a minute, in case you didn't work that out. And if you're not a player on my server, so I'm just helping him out a bit here. So okay, so I'm placing this at the bottom, but if you watch this, it'll actually sink to the bottom and then become a source block at the bottom. whereas water, if you place it there, it will just flow down and the source block will stay at the top. So I'm just going to play this and then fast forward to when I finished it. Okay, so I filled my reactor with creatine. So I'm now just going to put a lid on it and this should be complete. Should be, I may have missed a block somewhere. Okay, let's put the last block in and you can see it turned into a multi-block, so that means it worked. So let's jump down here and you can see that the controller is now red, which means it's turned off. So now what we can do is automate this. So I'm going to grab myself an export bus and some yellorium. So this now exports yellorium into here. As you can see, as it tells you everything that you really need to know. This is your burn up rate. This will tell you how much you are using, how much fuel you're using per tick. This is the reactivity, which, as you can see, that's just there what it does. So these are pretty good. They tell you which each of them are for you, so you know what that is. And it's generally very helpful. It tells you everything that you need to know about it, and yeah, it's good like that. So let's turn this on. Now, as you can see, the fuel burn-up rate is at 0.13, which is a very good burn-up rate, but not really for the amount of fuel for the amount of power that's being outputted. So you can see it's filling up this internal buffer, and then as soon as you put power cables or something on the side, it will then use it up as and when it's needed. But unless you turn it off yourself using the deactivate button, it's not going to turn itself off. So it would be wasting your fuel the whole time that it's full. So always definitely look into a way of automating it. If you join my server, then there's loads of people who know how different ways of doing it. So there is no excuse to not automate it. There's also loads of stuff on the internet as well. If you just Google it, it's pretty simple. Okay, so I think that's all that you need to know for now. If you just put the cyanide that comes out here into a reprocessor, it will then turn into plutonium, which is you can then put in instead of yellorite. So, yep, good luck with your builds and goodbye.